Hello, my name is Andrea Anderson. With the many hardships during today's crucial times, being a part of the youth can be filled with great pressure. Any amount of pressure can easily lead us to ask others for advice, favors, and for as much help as we could desperately get. I always find myself being unsure of my choices and asking others for their input. It could be the smallest decision, and although it's always handy to hear someone else's thoughts, I must wonder why I'm depending on others when ultimately it is up to me. It is never a bad thing to count on others, but you can't expect to get the farthest without being able to give yourself credit. Today, I will share two examples of how relying on yourself is a must. I will begin with telling you about Aesop's fable, Hercules and the Wagoner. Hercules and the Wagoner tells of a man who was driving a wagon along a tough road that made his wheels get stuck in a rut. After realizing he was stuck, the man's initial thought was to cry to God, Hercules, to help him get out of this situation. Hercules then appeared just to tell him to basically do it yourself. He exclaimed this by telling him, "Goad on your bullocks and never more pray to me for help until you've done your best to help yourself." Although we never hear about what the man proceeded to do, we are left with a strong message from Hercules. The moral of the story is that self-help is the best help. After reading this fable, I can truly agree, being that I've experienced many similar situations. This situation is very personal to me, but sharing it will not only help myself, but hopefully encourage others to follow this moral of self-help. During the summer of my freshman year, I had healthily lost 30 pounds before my competition season for dance. I was so thrilled to perform at one of the best shapes I had ever been in. With my mother's motivation, I continued my fitness journey, although her support was quite overbearing. I always heard comments on my appearance, diet, and activity level. I understood that she wanted me to be at my best, but unfortunately this wasn't the route that I was pushed towards. It became an unhealthy obsession with my body, and it wasn't for the sake of dance competitions at this point. I struggled to stay awake in school from the strain on my body. I was failing classes and overworking myself even after late night dance practices. Still clueless, I continued to look for the validation of my mother. It wasn't until my junior year that I decided to get help. I scheduled appointments with a therapist, although my mother still didn't understand why. Immediately, my therapist recognized that bulimia nervosa was taking control. With the shock of the news, things only got less fortunate when the COVID-19 pandemic started, and I was unable to have in-person sessions with my therapist. Amongst all my free time, I was surrounded by triggers, but at the end of it all, I only had one person to count on. I counted on no one other than myself to overcome my eating disorder. It was and is still a work in progress. But without my own help, I would never be in recovery. I can proudly say that I've tried my best to not relapse in my unhealthy cycle, and push the negative thoughts away, even through the bad things that our world has endured. Therefore, relying on myself was one of the best decisions I have made thus far. Hercules and the Wagner and my stories are not the only ones out there to explain this moral, but the spread of it could help millions. Next time you think to rely on someone else, think about what you can do to help yourself first. Self-help is indeed the best help. Thank you.
Oh, I need you to clean up too. Or you can take your computer back and then come back.